All right, we are finally live. A little behind. Welcome back to the Eye of Stone podcast, where we are going to kind of do a rough overview of things that we didn't get the chance to talk about for each movie of the Lord of the Rings series that we covered just a few weeks ago. Of course, we got Matthew Jones, the expert of Lord of the Rings, on here, and one of the regulars at this point.
Time out. That says Lord Matt the Monument Jones. Get it right.
Lord Matt the Monument Jones.
Yeah, I need you to refer to me by my legal title. And that's Lord.
Yes, sir. Of course. So, yeah, Matt, why don't you take it away?
You didn't even introduce me. You suck.
Oh, yeah, and then there's Kyle. So,
where's your name at? Dima? Dimitri?
I just had to go punch something real quick.
All right. No, that's fair.
That's a very Kyle thing of you to do.
Yeah. Drywall beware. No, I'm really glad we're doing this. We talked about this last week, but this was Matt's idea because these movies, as Matt has said, you could have 3 movies per book. There's just so much story. So with that being said, when we only have an hour and a half to talk about one movie, there's not enough time to cover everything. So great idea doing this to kind of gloss over the movies again and touch on things we didn't get to talk about. Because, Matt, I have a lot of questions for you about things that I feel like the movies don't really explain. Like, all 3 of them have things where I was questioning stuff. So I'm glad we're doing this so I can pick your brain a little bit more. But I figure we'll just go one by one and kind of say anything we want to say about them, and then I'll ask my questions.
Matthew?
No, after you have the con, Dima. Go ahead and run it.
I'm just kind of here.
This is your stream. We're just living in it.
No, I mean, I'm just pretty much going to reiterate what I said before. I thought they were great movies, filmed amazing. The cast and crew were all absolutely phenomenal. I'll probably watch them again, but it's not going to be one of those where I'm going to be watching them like 10 times over.
At some point in your life, you need to do the challenge of watching these and The Hobbit in the same day.
Yes. When I get a day to do that.
Yeah, start to finish, the extended cuts.
Yes. I feel like that's the only way to do it.
You can only pause for bathroom breaks and to grab like immediate food.
Yeah.
But there's no you cannot be paused for more than an hour.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So luckily with the way the house is set up, I can still watch and get food pretty easily. Just turn it up a little extra loud, but
before we get into this, I wanted to ask you guys, have you both watched any of The Penguin yet?
Yes.
No, not yet.
I am watching the
time out. Sorry. Yeah. You're fine. What's your question? I didn't think about that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind setting that up, I'll switch off. So Abby has an iPad.
That she does.
So then I could actually use my phone and be a little bit more productive during the stream. So I'll let you guys talk about how much you hate each other, and I'll be back on in a minute.
Sounds good. See you soon.
All right, Dima. On a scale of let's say Star Wars is a 1 and a 10 would be just the greatest thing ever. Where do you rate Lord of the Rings, and why is it a 10?
I probably had to say 7.
All right, 7. So 7 points higher than Star Wars. All right, cool.
So
let's compare, right? Tell me what you like about Lord of the Rings in conjunction with Star Wars, right? Because there are some
Similarities.
pulls like similarities in, because Lord of the Rings came first.
Right.
So there are some similarities in Star Wars. So like, what do you like about that?
I thought like the storyline of itself was really cool. How it's really clear to see who is who and where they stand. Um, like so Gandalf, for example, he's clearly the good guy, but he's more of like the Yoda of the series.
Okay. Yeah.
To where
You don't want to say one of the little guys is Yoda?
yeah, no, the hobbits are definitely hobbits or dwarves are not.
They're definitely Jedi.
But like, I mean, it honestly, it reminds me more of like religion, like
Okay.
biblically, more than anything else, I feel like. So,
All right. I can get behind that. Is that like would you draw from like the religious aspect of Star Wars with like the Jedi and all that?
yeah, you could. So,
Now, if you had to be an elf, a dwarf, or a hobbit, what would you be?
probably an elf.
I'd be a dwarf. Why would
Really?
you be an elf? Why would you be an elf?
I just feel like tactically, they're just fucking units. And then I like their armor. I think it was the second movie. Their armor was just absolutely badass and reminded
Yeah,
me of
you really
Loki.
do see their armor more than anything else in the second movie in the Battle of Helm's Deep. I think you'll change your tune when you see when you watch through. Have you watched through the Hobbit movies yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, I think you'll change your tune when you watch through the Hobbit movies when it comes to dwarves, and even I would say even more so when you watch Rings of Power.
Okay.
Which I'm assuming you're going to watch that.
Yeah, I plan on it. Just kind of waiting for a day where I can just like watch something without doing other things.
So I think if you watch, because like if you think about how long the movies are, it's like you have to watch because there are 8 episodes, I think. So you got to watch 3 episodes and then 2 episodes and then 3 episodes or however you want to break it up.
Okay.
And so essentially making a season into 3 parts. At least I think there are 8 episodes. Yeah, 8 episodes. And there's some kind of math where you can man, I feel like that sun is just, yeah, there we go, just coming fucking right in there. There's some kind of because if you watch all 3 of the extended editions of Lord of the Rings and then you watch all 3 of the Hobbit movies, it's 24 hours.
Damn.
Um, 683 minutes.
Is that including the animated?
No, I have a very love-hate relationship with the Lord of the Rings animated film. Which have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
It's goofy. It's super goofy because it's like motion captured and then they animate over it.
Okay.
Like those older animated movies are.
Mhm.
And it's just the good. You have to watch it to truly like um not cherish, but like if you truly want to like see like how great and understand how great like the Lord of the Rings movies are,
Mhm.
you kind of have to see where they come from, and see like the first attempt. And there's even like I think there's like I want to say it's a Russian attempt of yeah, it's a play miniseries um that was broadcasted on Soviet television. Um, hang on, real quick. My pregnant wife is calling me, which means I'm in trouble.
Sounds good. Alrighty. Well, it's just me. Kyle kind of asked about it a little bit ago about the Penguin series. I started watching the second episode a little bit ago, right before we went live. Um, so far, so good. Definitely interested to see where it goes from there. Um, and whoa, that was strange. We're gonna get him back in now. And there's Kyle.
Did you see my camera doing that shit?
Yeah, like zoomed in
Yeah,
type
I don't know.
that.
Yeah, I think it's his iPad. I think it has like a dynamic camera or something.
Interesting.
It's trippy, but hey, I can use my
Whatever
phone. I
works.
don't even care. So, where's Matt?
He was summoned by his pregnant wife, as he said.
Okay. What have you guys covered?
Not really. He was asking me like, what did I notice, or like scale 1 to 10, where would I grade Lord of the Rings? Um, and then he asked like, what resemblances have I noticed like between that and Star Wars, and such.
That's a good question.
Um,
You could definitely say the main protagonist, like you have Luke and you have Frodo, that
Yep.
both are getting tasked with making some kind of adventure
Yeah.
for a greater cause.
Yeah, I definitely said Gandalf was Yoda.
In a sense, he's also kind of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I was thinking Obi-Wan as well, but then I was like, well,
Because
he's more
he goes to
powerful than,
Tatooine and like
yeah,
go
gets the
see
Hobbit.
like Uncle Ben and them, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I could see him as Obi-Wan as well.
But either way, it's a good question.
Um,
All right. Well, before we get really into this, for anyone who's actually watching our stream or watching us down the road, we got some chaos because I left my setup at my in-laws. I usually run the stream, so Dima, who's never had to do this before, got tasked with doing it probably like 10 minutes before we got on here. So he's doing a great job, and that's why there's been chaos. That's why I've been in and out, because at first I was doing it on my phone, and then my wife has let me use her iPad now, so I can use my phone for notes and shit. So yeah, lots going on, lots of craziness. I'm gonna go ahead and post our live now that I can do that.
Perfect. I don't know what the
And then yeah, so I have to say, when it comes to this genre, I think this is probably the greatest trilogy in terms of like a epic adventure fantasy story. I think it would be really hard to top this.
Yeah, I rated it a 7.
I just like of like any trilogy or series of movies that are all within the same canon or whatever. Like I think Lord of the Rings is the most well put together, well thought out, and Peter Jackson is just he's a really incredible director.
Yeah.
And him having his hands on these movies and the Hobbit movies, like when we start getting into the Hobbit movies, you can just tell like the same guy made these movies.
Right.
which is cool because it makes it all feel like it's in the same world and you believe it, you buy into it. I'm having some difficulties again. Are we still live?
Oh, we are. Yes.
Yeah, we are. Okay.
I have not ended it.
I don't know why YouTube's trying to act like we're not live right now, but whatever.
Unless that's something I'm supposed to do on this end.
No, it says we're live up in your corner, so.
Well, it shows live on my end when I'm on YouTube.
Shows live on my screen.
Hey, he's back. All right.
So.
Matt, I apologize for all the craziness.
It's all right. I thought you guys want to see this. This is just one of the things that I have, but it's a. It is a. Before he died, but it's signed by
Oh man,
Bernard Hill, King Theoden.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
That is cool though. That's really cool.
And then I have a. Gimli that's signed by John Rhys Davies, who played Gimli.
And these are, just to clarify for people watching, these are Magic the Gathering Lord of the Ring edition.
Yeah, because I'm a fucking nerd.
Hey, it's cool to be a nerd.
And then literally here in a couple weeks, I'm actually going to go see Faramir. And he's going to sign this guy.
That's right. Sorry, this iPad camera is like dynamic.
Oh.
Yeah, it's tripping me out.
That's kind of rad. That's kind of cool, though. It tries to follow you.
Yeah, I'm trying to dodge it and shit. But yeah. So he told me about the question that you asked him.
Yep.
And I thought it was a pretty solid question. I basically said, like, in terms of, like, the grand idea of both stories, like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, you have the main protagonist who is kind of the little guy in both, respective worlds. And they get tasked with something for the greater good of their world or universe, and they have to go on this grand adventure. Yeah. Yeah. So, and you run into these ragtag characters and whatever. And yeah. And then there's the big evil bad guy, and it's pretty. They both definitely.
It's pretty on par.
Yeah. And you've got the typical like good versus evil thing on both sides as well. So.
Yeah, and then I asked him if you could pick between a elf, dwarf, and a hobbit, what would you be?
Hobbit.
All right. I got to tell you, like the lifestyle of the hobbits is 10 out of 10. It does not get any better than that. I always told myself if I was going to win the lottery, like if I ever won the lottery, I would build obviously a person-sized, but a exact replica to live in of Bag End from the Shire, and like that would just be my house.
Love that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, there's just something about, especially if you're wealthy, like the Baggins,
Yeah.
It's a rich estate, and I feel like you just kind of get to wake up every day and smoke weed and drink.
Just do whatever you want.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
because a lot of people don't realize how like rich Bilbo was. That camera is
it's wild. I just try to get in a position where it'll stop moving, so hopefully it works.
Yeah. I wonder if my iPad does that. But like they're filthy rich, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of people don't really understand how rich they are. But like there's the scene just for like one piece of it. So Bilbo gives Frodo his mithril shirt, right? And then you'll see the origins of that. I mean, Bilbo says in the movie that it was a gift from Thorin. But like that one mithril shirt is worth more than the entirety of the Shire, which Bilbo already owns a significant chunk of as like a Baggins, right? but it's worth more than the whole Shire.
Wow.
And it's also alluded that that the Mithril shirt, because it fits Bilbo, there's like a little, not conspiracy theory, but there's like a subreddit that's dedicated to like, weird things about Lord of the Rings, or like little things that people don't notice, or things that aren't, because one of the things that made Tolkien such a great writer and a great storyteller is that he left a lot of open endings, and he left a lot of things open to interpretation. So you as a reader, or in this case, a moviegoer, can kind of come to your own conclusions about things. And sorry, my cat's trying to get into the room, just like at the door. So you come to your own conclusions about things. And so one of the big things is like, well, the Mithril shirt is too small to fit elves or dwarves. So like what, who would wear that? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of alluded that, with how much the Mithril shirt is worth, that it actually belonged to Legolas when he was a child.
Oh.
Fun fact. Hey, I'm going to go let my cat in so she stops scratching.
Oh, what are you drinking, Dima?
Just a little something that Matt picked up the other day.
That's awesome. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Some Southern Comfort?
Just a little bit.
You finishing the bottle off?
No.
Polishing it off?
No, not even a little bit. I still got a long way to go.
I'm glad we all got to hang out. It was cool.
Yeah, me too. We'll have to do it again. Yeah. I know somebody said something about carving pumpkins.
Abby.
I don't have anyone's number saved in my phone yet.
We were like, we got a bunch of pong tables. We can just set them up and carve pumpkins.
Why not?
That would work.
Fucking drink while we do it.
It's an excuse to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that I know that we kind of, because the Return of the King episode, we kind of barreled through that towards the end. And one of the things that I didn't get to talk about that I wanted to talk about was when Rohan comes back into the scene, and they charge Pelennor Fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I see this scene pop up a lot. So there's like shows that you can go to that's like a live orchestra, and they'll play like the music of Lord of the Rings like while the film is playing. And I see the scene of like the charge of the Rohirrim all the time. And it's just one of those things that why like I'm such a Rohan guy, like Gondor is cool, but like it's just not as cool as Rohan is. Like Gondor is nicer, they're more polished than Rohan is, but like just like the grittiness of like the Rohirrim, and they almost remind me when you look at like their helmets, some of the Rohirrim helmets remind me of Vikings almost. So just they're 10 out of 10, right? You see like, and it just goes also to show you in like lore wise, like how powerful like the rings of power are, right? So like you have 3 rings for elves, 7 for dwarves, 9 for men. The kings of men who have the rings of power become the ring wraiths, become the Nazgul. And then like the greatest of the 9 is like the Witch King of Angmar, right? And then you can get to like a whole nother spiel about like the kingdom of Angmar, right? And I know I'd also mentioned it once before, like we talk about like orcs and Uruk-hai and how like powerful they are and how strong they are, and like the orcs of Angmar are I would argue is like the most ferocious and powerful of like all of the orcs of Middle Earth. because they like directly integrate armor and weapons into their bodies. You know, they'll like cut off their arm to like have like a mace for an arm. So they're always, you know, packing a weapon, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, upgrade.
Naturally.
so like, you know, the Witch King is like who ruled the kingdom of Angmar. So like, you know, he has to be powerful to like, you know, be in charge of like that powerful kingdom.
Mhm.
But like you can see like how powerful he is because he breaks Gandalf's staff, right? Which is like a big deal because that's like the, you know, like the freaking Harry Potter, their wands, right? Like that's like their,
Yeah.
not their source of power, but it's like their focus point of their power, right? And so, like in Dungeons and Dragons, wizards and sorcerers have like a spellcasting focus, like that. The staff of Gandalf is his spellcasting focus, essentially. And to have that broken, that focal point of magic, just shows how powerful the Witch King is. And if Rohan wouldn't have arrived at that precise time, you know, the Witch King was going to kill Gandalf. You know, not only was Gandalf powerful before when he was Gandalf the Grey,
Mhm.
and then he dies fighting a Balrog, which is a servant of Morgoth, which is akin to kind of what Sauron is, but then a servant of Sauron was getting ready to kill Gandalf in a more powerful form.
Okay.
And it also shows that like the Istari, when they came to Middle Earth, were strictly forbidden from like going all out when it came to like their power and whatnot. Like they're supposed to like, you know, help Middle Earth, but like they're supposed to drive them to like save themselves, essentially.
Yeah.
So like it just goes to show like again also like how kind of a good guy Gandalf was, because it would have been nothing for him just to kind of like, and like, all right, the Witch King's just gone, you know. But like he doesn't do that, you know.
That
So
was
just
one of my
kind of cool
questions
scene.
actually was
What?
about the Witch King, because it's established like he's the most powerful servant of Sauron
Right.
and he looks fucking badass. I meant to comment on that before, but like the armor, which
It's
is
tough.
is that the same armor that Sauron is wearing when he gets his finger cut off?
No, it is not. It
Okay.
does look similar, but it's not the
Yeah.
same armor.
But it looks badass either way.
It does look badass.
And especially just not having a face inside the helmet. It's just
Right.
darkness. Really adds a whole other level of.
It's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough.
But I just was wondering what the backstory on the Witch King was. You know, how is he the most powerful of the Nazgul, and how is what makes him better than the rest is I guess my question.
So specifically, and I've got to look it up because I can never remember what his name was
Fucking
before he became the Witch King.
It was Steve.
Sure. So it's just like, so his specific ring, one of the 9 rings that he gave him great power. So he's a Lord of the Nazgul, otherwise referred to as the Witch King of Angmar, or the Pale King, or the Black Captain.
Okay. That's another thing, and I don't mean to get carried away here.
No, you're fine.
So the Black Captain.
Yep.
And then we also have the Black Lieutenant, which is also the mouth of Sauron.
Right.
So like there's like rankings for Mordor's army.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Yeah. Okay. 100%.
It's not really like established, like at least I don't think it is. It just kind of seems like you have Sauron, and then you just have like an army of Uruk-hai and orcs, and
he's definitely Numenorian in origin. So like the kingdom of Numenor, before it was like lost to like the flood, before like the collapse of Numenor, before like the Numenorians fled to Middle Earth, before the kingdom of Angmar was established. So like he's old.
Was he a physical being?
Yes, yeah, he was like a person.
Okay.
Like he was like a king of men before he became the Witch King. They
'Cause that's what I thought.
all
It's
of the
like,
Nazgul were. They were all men at one point.
I thought they established that in Fellowship of the Ring when they're talking
Mhm.
about like, when they try to get Frodo and he gets stabbed with the sword. I
Right.
guess like right before that is when is it Aragorn that explains what they are to them?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Was it Aragorn that explained to them what those were?
Yeah, and he
Okay.
did. He calls them like wraiths.
Yeah, ring wraiths.
Which is correct. It's what they are.
Yeah, I like
But
that.
yeah,
They're
he
fast.
kind of like loosely gives them a rundown of like who they are and what they are.
Because like his explanation of like they were king.
Kyle, you cut out. You're kind of cutting back in, but just barely.
One second. Can you
There we
hear
go.
me?
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't know what's going on. You said you can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I think these AirPods disconnected is what happened.
Oh.
You get some good old fashioned wired headphones.
All right. Yeah, I have those. They're in my book bag with my MacBook at my in-laws.
Oh. Love
There
that.
we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Geez. Sorry for that. That was stupid. But no, like he gives that explanation, and so I remembered that. But then in Return of the King, we get these new details, and I'm like, so wait, was Aragorn not correct, or is it all just like cohesive?
It's all cohesive in a way.
Okay, because it made me think like we were told one thing and then it was actually another, and that's why I was confused.
Aragorn was correct. He just like called them something other than like kind of what everyone else calls them Nazgul, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like he calls them ring wraiths, neither living nor dead kind of thing, which is true. Like they are kind of neither living nor dead.
Stuck in purgatory.
Basically, stuck as like servants of like this greater evil because they, lusted for power, like such a possessiveness for like power. And that's
Which
like why
really,
Sauron was drawn to them to give them the rings, and like, consume them and control them is like kind of why they got themselves into this position, all 9 of them.
well, I was gonna say with Aragorn's explanation of them, and then if they, did become this thing that we hear about in Return of the King, I'm like, that really sells me on Sauron being evil, because that was something I had an issue with in the first movie. So that's like a ramification of his power, like that's showing me here's what he's doing.
Yeah, so like I mean, and at the end of the day, Sauron, right, is like he's called like the great deceiver or like the great corrupter, right? So he's like somebody from New York is calling me like I'm gonna answer from that communist state.
I just had one. I literally just had one. And I think that's what fucked with my AirPods.
Mount Kisco?
Maybe.
Chat, go ahead and call it. No, I'm just kidding. Dude, if it is, that's gonna be so funny. Oh, they're leaving
I'm
me a voice.
mistaken. It was Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's even worse.
Far off, way far off. I thought it was New York. Okay, Washington.
So like Sauron is like I said, the great deceiver, right? And like once you guys, I'm not going to delve into it too much at this moment unless you have like a specific question.
That's fine, because I think Rings of Power touches on
Rings of
stuff as
Power
well.
will delve so much more into Sauron, especially season 2. Like you'll get some stuff in season 1, like you'll kind of see some stuff they will talk about Sauron.
Oh yeah, just
but
the
like,
first episode. The first episode gives you a nice little
yep.
Here's about Sauron thing, and it's like, oh, okay. Which I
But
can't wait
like
to talk about that.
season 2 is delves a lot more into it. It's so good. So like Rings of Power is like and what I'll preface this by saying, because you guys aren't like huge Lord of the Rings nerds like I am, you know.
No.
But like so Rings of Power, and what I will always tell people this is like, watch Rings of Power as like entertainment. Don't watch it to tie it into the books or the movies. So like, don't try and be like, oh, well, this is part of Rings of Power, so that means this is this from the movie, or they established this in the movie, so this doesn't make sense in Rings of Power. Don't worry about that. Just watch Rings of Power for as it is, for like its own benefit. You know,
I already made that mistake because I started watching it and I was like, wait, where are all the black elves and you know what I mean? It was just like,
that's exactly it.
Like, what's happening?
Yeah, there's like one I never noticed them before, but there's like an Asian elf in like the last episode that I watched, and I was like, wait a second, like what? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, you know, it's just
but the movies blatantly don't have any of that. Like
and it's just like that's just
a fact. Like
that was just the casting decisions. I don't think that there was any. I think that Peter Jackson tried to go in as like close to the source material as possible. So then you'll also have to look at, okay, well, who is J.R. Tolkien? What has he experienced in life? Where is he from? You know, and then you look at, okay, well, here's J.R. Tolkien. Here's the experience that he's had. Here's the people that he knows. So like, and you know, his, you know, writings is like a direct correlation of his time, like in war, right?
Yeah.
So like he's writing based off of what he's familiar with. And so you can't be like, oh, well, why didn't he make Sam black? And it's like, well, because he's writing based off an experience, and Sam is based on somebody he knows who is white. So like the way that he describes them in the books then leads to, you know, the casting decisions made by the production company for Lord of the Rings. And then, you know, those live for 20 years, you know, a little bit more than 20 years, you know, from like their, you know, time filming to the release, you know. And then we even go into the Hobbit movies, and there's not a huge diversity issue in the Hobbit movies, and those are not too old. I don't remember exactly when those came out.
Like 2014,
something like that, right?
I think something like because I think I saw all 3 of them in theaters, if I'm not mistaken.
I 100% did.
I definitely saw the first one, but yeah, I think it was around that time.
Yeah, 2012, 2014, 2013.
Yeah, okay. So 10 years ago, so a decade ago, these movies came out. Not any huge issues. And now we get Rings of Power, and I mean, we know what the world is like and the political climate and everything like that. So like, you know, it's like, all right, we got to get some other skin tones in there. And it's like reasonable to say, and I'm actually wrong, actually, because if you look at the Haradrim, for example, and the Soldiers of Rune, like they are very clearly, you know, like Middle Eastern in descent. Like if you look at them, so like, you know, whatever.
So there is representation.
There's some diversity in Lord of the Rings. It's just not what people expect out of what we have today.
To be fair, also, and I just checked this because I had it in my notes, but I wasn't sure where I got this. This story, like the books, are set in the Third Age. So a little over 3,000 years after the first rising of the sun and the falling of so creation, 3,000 years later. So like people haven't traveled the globe. They haven't gone to other continents.
Right.
So like you're going to have people basically in our theories of where we come from and relative to the equator, that's where you're going to see different types of people.
And also, so if you look at Middle Earth, right? So Middle Earth is the world, right? But Middle Earth is designed as like more of like a Pangea, like when Pangea was a thing, for the flat earthers who deny that the world is round. Pangea was a thing when all the continents were together in like a supercontinent, and then the tectonic plates of the world shifted, turning the world into what we have and what we know today. For all the flat earthers that deny that the world is not round. Basic science. But like even like the events of Rings of Power, right? They take place thousands of years before the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Thousands of years. So like, maybe there's some like great mass migration of people in like, in the times between like Rings of Power and Lord of the Rings, or there's so many ways that you could explain it, other than just shouting J.R. Tolkien was racist. Like it's just that's whatever. That's not the case. We're gonna get canceled. So the Tolkien estate is gonna come after me.
Abby told me I was gonna get canceled for saying ghetto on our last stream, and I'm just like, you know what? If I can't say ghetto, I don't care anymore. Like I just don't care. If you're offended by ghetto, I want to
you're ghetto.
Your life. Yeah, you're No, but
if you're offended by the word ghetto, you probably spent some time in Tri-County Mall.
Yeah. Jesus, that was a ghetto mall.
That was a ghetto mall.
Without question.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
And we were ghetto mall cops. So
yeah,
there we go.
10 out of 10. I miss that so much sometimes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to like do a stream about that one day for sure.
Just where we talk about being in the mall.
Anyway.
Yeah, so you will get so much more in depth into Sauron. So like if you really want to know about Sauron, and like one of the cool things too, for like Sauron, and I didn't really notice it before until I was like kind of researching to like talk about Lord of the Rings. There's no like clear like this is what Sauron looks like in anything.
Okay.
And it was specifically again like just a credit to J.R. Tolkien and his abilities as like a writer and a storyteller, because he wanted you to come up with your own image in your head of what the Great Deceiver looks like, and there's a couple, I have to find it. There's like this sculpture of like a bust of like some artist who did what he thinks Sauron looks like. And I'll have to find that at some point and share it with you. But
I saw an edit where someone put Sauron's eye in Anakin Skywalker when he's turning to the dark side. It was pretty sick. But yeah. So I have another question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Actually, before I get to that, because I kind of wanted to try to follow these movies in order. We didn't talk about this at all in our first stream with Fellowship of the Ring. Well, Deem and I kind of touched on it, but I want to talk to you about it because it gets a lot of controversial. Like people will say one thing about it, and they're like, "Oh no, it was terrible." The Battle of Gandalf with Saruman.
Okay, yeah.
I thought that was fucking awesome.
I thought it was cool.
I literally in my phone, I put like Battle of the Wizards in like capital letters. I was like, it was so cool. I thought it was really cool. But
I see why people don't like it, like certain parts of the CGI. But I mean, that's being.
Dude,
so
like
you see, like
crap you see in Harry Potter, it smokes it. I mean, it smokes it.
Yeah, for sure. So like you see, like Gandalf goes to Saruman, and I mean they are very powerful, and that's like established, right? Like Saruman and Gandalf are powerful. Saruman is supposedly more powerful than Gandalf because he is the head of the Astari in Middle Earth. But I think that Saruman pulled his punches in like that fight, because they're in a small room. They're in the Tower of Orthanc, which is like Saruman's home. So he's not gonna like destroy his home to like battle Gandalf. But I think that there's also some hope in Saruman that Gandalf will basically turn and be a bad guy.
He's always.
I didn't think about that.
And then there's some hope in Gandalf that Saruman will realize his mistakes and not help Sauron anymore. So like when they're fighting each other, they're definitely holding back. And that's, I think, why some people think like, well, it's kind of a lame fight, or like just, whatever. And yeah, sure, there's, you got to think this is like done in like the early, just getting into the 2000s. So like the CGI is not what we have today. Like obviously, if you hold up the CGI of something that was made 2 decades ago, a fucking quarter of a century ago, it is not going to hold up to what we are making today. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
But like in the confines of just being in this movie, what did you think about it?
I mean, I thought I looked at it as like I said, like they each are holding out hope for each other. And so they're going to pull their punches. So they're going to duke it out, but they're not going to kill each other. But I mean, I thought it was a good fight. And then you can see further too, like the power of Saruman and Gandalf so Gandalf goes to Orthanc, gets captured by Saruman, gets held captive for a good chunk of time, while the hobbits are waiting for him and Bree. They eventually, get back together again. Frodo gets stabbed on Weathertop, and Gandalf meets him at Rivendell because he escapes because he talked to a moth, and then a moth went to go let the eagles know, and he jumped off the Tower of Orthanc. But later, they're traversing this path to get to Mordor, and they're trying to go over the mountains. Right, they're in like almost kind of like they're getting towards the Gap of Rohan, right, and then that cluster of crows comes up and flies by them all, and those are like Saruman's spies. And so they're like, well, we can't go this way, so they're going to go try and go over the mountain. And there's this scene where lightning starts to strike, and it's causing an avalanche to start. Yeah. And then you see like Saruman on top of Orthanc, like speaking Quenya, which is like the magical language and all that, like basically summoning this storm. And you can just see like how powerful he is, because he knows now, because Gandalf has escaped, that like, okay, well, he's not going to help me out, so like I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. And
like he is actively trying to kill them at that point. And then that's when Gimli's like, let's go to the mines of Moria, let's go through the mines. And Frodo makes the decision like, okay, yeah, let's go through the mines. And then you see like Gandalf in the snow, like trying to like cast some spells and hold off like the power of Saruman before like he brings down the mountain on top of them, essentially.
Yeah. I guess just representing general audience on this kind of stuff. I thought the fight was cool.
Yeah.
But I thought it was, and I like your perspective on it, because it makes me look at it a little differently in terms of the character's intentions. But I was just like, this was cool, but I feel like there's probably more that could have happened. So like them holding back makes sense. And I think where they failed, in my opinion, in Return of the King, I said Saruman's death was really lame.
Yeah.
Yeah. He died like
they
a bitch.
Kind of tease something, and I love when any kind of story, if it's a book, a movie, whatever it is, if it promises on something and then delivers, it's like, yes, you have this battle, Gandalf gets bested, yada, yada, yada. Return of the King, the climax of the series, everything's getting a nice bow tied on it and whatever. why didn't we have an epic ass battle between White Gandalf and Saruman? Like, why didn't we get that? Why is Gandalf just down there and
failed us.
watches him fucking fall into the water wheel? Like, what? What the fuck,
They
man?
failed us.
It's one of the bigger gripes of like Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
and not only like that it's not like a big battle between wizards, right? Because
It would have been
you know,
so
like
cool.
it would have been cool.
Yeah, especially
But
with the
like
budget they had on that third movie. I mean, Jesus, man.
I mean, yeah, they definitely could have afforded it. But like we simply didn't get that because Peter Jackson just went kind of a certain direction with his films. So maybe like
So
Rings of,
that is
maybe
the
in Rings of
books?
Power we'll get. So there is some like wizard battling, and then even like the Witch King is referred to as like the Wizard King, um, in like the books and a few points. So
Hmm.
I'm not going to tell you without ruining, if you ever do want to read the books.
That's fair. That's fair.
I will say maybe that
You'll
we
read
get,
Dima.
maybe we'll get some wizard battles in Rings of Power. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe we'll get that.
Dima, if you don't like to read, audiobooks will change your life.
Audiobooks are life changing.
I listen to them at the gym, and it's better than music sometimes.
Where do I get one of those from?
There's a lot of
So
things you can do. Like libraries have apps that you can literally rent a book, and it'll play the audiobook.
yeah, so there's one called Libby that I
Yeah, that's
use
what I
a
have.
lot.
Yeah.
And it's just plugged up to my Cincinnati Hamilton County Public Library card.
Yep. Same.
And then if you do like Amazon has like it's like Audible or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have to buy those or not. You might be able to rent those on there. I've never used Audible, so.
I think it comes with the Prime subscription.
But yeah, that's an option for you as well.
Yeah, and then there, Spotify too. Spotify has audiobooks.
I know
Like
there's a
all of the Lord
version.
of the Ring books are on Spotify.
Oh,
I
wow.
know there's a version of Lord of the Rings that's being read by Andy. What's his last name? Who voiced Gollum? What's his last name?
Circus.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a version where he reads through the Lord of the Rings books. I don't know where that is, but
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Okay, but yeah,
So just bear that in
audiobooks will
mind.
change your life, Dean. That's all. I gotta
Audiobooks
say.
are life changing. I don't
I
even want
just
to know
hit
how long.
homework.
I don't even want to know how long the audiobook of the Lord of the Rings is. It's probably very long.
Like, I won't
Yeah,
even probably read my book after it's all done and squared away and out there.
What?
What?
I
Are you
just
writing a
don't like.
book?
Yeah, I've been writing it for a couple years.
Good Lord, Dima. What's it about?
Well, that's a conversation
Come
for
on,
another
just
time.
give me a quick little, little taste.
It's about how the Gulf of Mexico definitely isn't in Africa.
I'm not good at geography.
That's all
Good
right.
Lord.
Hey, that's
No,
okay.
will
I knew it was
say,
Almond.
Dima has sent me some stuff from this book, and it's really good.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
Dima couldn't write a report to save his life, but he is writing a
But
book.
he
and
sure as
it's-
shit can write a book.
Hey, Claire said it was really good.
Yeah,
She
I
is an
forgot about
avid
that.
reader.
And she's a big bookworm. That's all she does.
All right, okay,
Yeah.
whatever you say. What are the questions you got, Kyle?
All right.
I'll read it when it gets published.
So a question Dima and I both had. We were very confused on the relationship between Arwen and Aragon. And
Okay.
I thought from when I watched these movies before that they were married from jump. But then I questioned it when I was watching. I was like, wait a minute, are they married yet?
I feel like they get married at the end of the third.
So, in the movies, it's not specifically stated.
No, it's not. That's why I was confused watching these again. I was like, wait a minute, I don't even know if they're actually married.
So,
And then I have another question about Arwen as well.
I replaced
they do get married, but I believe it's just in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Book.
In the book, yeah.
See, and I guess I just assumed that when I watched these. Whenever I guess I just assumed they were married.
So in the books, right? Like Arwen is like a super minor character, right? Like she shows up.
She's not that relevant in these movies.
No, she has a bigger part in the movies than she does in the book, and her part of the movies is still.
Yeah.
So like that whole business in the Fellowship of the Ring, like she shows up and like saves fucking sneaks up on Aragorn and like saves Frodo, and like that doesn't happen in the books. Like in the books, she literally shows up when they're in Rivendell already at like a dinner scene, and like I believe that they get married there, and then I don't think you ever see her again in the books. She's like talked about a couple times, but like you don't see her again. She's just waiting for Aragorn. That's it.
Because like her arc, although it's very like minuscule compared to everything else, is basically Aragorn is on this venture and she's supposed to retreat with the other elves and like forget about him because he's gonna die and she's never
right.
gonna
Yeah,
die.
he tells her to leave, like go be with your people.
And then at first she's like going to do that, and then here's where my question about her comes: she has the power to see the future, or was that something that was put upon her by somebody else?
So she does not. So she does not. She does not have the ability to see into the future. It's Elrond that has the ability to do that. That has like what they call the gift of foresight. But that is literally given to them. So in the movies,
where she sees a son,
sees her son, right,
and that's what motivates her to go back and
right.
And I'm like, well, where'd that come from?
The gift of foresight, the only known elves that can do that in the movies, or at least that you kind of see in the movies, is Galadriel and Elrond. And the only reason they're able to do that is because they bear 2 of the elvish rings of power. That's what lets them do that.
Okay. See, these are the kind of things that just aren't really clear.
You got to read the books.
And it just but if you're just a moviegoer and you watch the movie,
right.
It's like, what?
So like when, from what it's kind of understood is when Elrond looks into the future.
I didn't know what I touched on accident.
You must stop touching stuff.
Well, if people comment, it might pop up on the stream. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Oh, get out of here.
So from what it's understood, when Elrond uses his gift of foresight to look into the future of a specific person, they will also see glimpses of what Elrond sees as like a byproduct of that. That's why she was able. That's why she was able to. That's why she was able to see that.
That actually gives it some more meaning too, because it's kind of like he was keeping that from her for her own good. Like he wanted. He was
definitely going to try.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That clears that up.
Crazy.
What else was there? Oh yeah. You kind of had to pop in and say some stuff, and then you jumped off the stream, and you threw in something, and I was like, wait, what? We were talking about the Black Gate.
Yep.
Where Aragorn's talking to everybody, and I was like, how fucking people behind the third row even tell what the fuck he's saying, and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we see the Black Lieutenant, which aesthetically is the scariest fucking being in all of these movies, in my opinion. Mainly because of the teeth.
Yeah.
But you just kind of throw in this little nugget of knowledge, and you're like, yeah, so him and Aragorn might have had some history, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what?
So the way that the Mouth of Sauron is dressed, and who he is in like lore and things like that, it's never directly stated that they know each other, but
Okay.
Aragorn is a Dunedain Ranger. He is a descendant of Numenor, and what it's understood is the Mouth of Sauron is a black Numenorian. So, like a soldier of Numenor or a noble of Numenor, someone of Numenor that left the goodness of Numenor to go serve Sauron and become evil. So there is a good, solid chance that they actually knew each other before the Mouth of Sauron became the Mouth of Sauron. And then again, it just shows, again, the evil of Sauron and like the corruption of Sauron that can turn somebody who probably looked like Aragorn, a lot like Aragorn at one point, into the Mouth of Sauron. Is
Okay.
like I said, that's never directly stated, but like if you look at the lore and you look at, you know, backstories and histories and things like that, you kind of make that connection that they might have known each other at some point. And there's a fun little, if you ever watch the appendices of the Lord of the Rings extended edition films, when they were doing like the CGI and things like that to get ready for the movie release, they actually tried a version of the Mouth of Sauron where instead of his mouth being horizontal, it's vertical.
Oh gosh.
And they were, that was like Peter Jackson's idea. He was like, well, what if we just try this, see what it looks like? And they fucking hated it. It looks so bad. But like there is a version where he's like talking and it's how like stuff like that. It's kind of weird.
You know, it's a very distinguishing look that he has compared to like any other creature or being we see. And that's why I was like, what is that? You know, like
so yeah, he was very much, he was a man at one point. He was a person.
So this evil corrupted him,
so
like Gollum, it transformed him,
right. So you just think he is canonically referred to as the Mouth of Sauron.
Oh yeah, he's
right.
A mouth.
So think about like, because the Eye of Sauron cannot speak like verbally. So like you hear kind of like the whispers sometimes and things like that. So like the Mouth of Sauron is Sauron's voice. So think about like, he's probably speaking when he's in Mordor, he's probably speaking black speech, like the language of Mordor. And like if you look at in the Fellowship of the Ring, when Gandalf spoke black speech in Rivendell, like the fucking land, there was like an earthquake, the sky darkened, you know, like things like that. So imagine like if an Astari speaks like that, and that's what happens. Imagine like the corruption that does to a normal person when they're speaking black speech. So think about if he does that for so long, that's what it does to his mouth, you know?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, Dima, what did you just send us? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. For everyone listening right now, Dima just sent us pictures of what Matt was talking about, so we were referencing that. We would screen share, but I don't think Dima's
that's a little.
Dima's probably not set up for that right now.
No.
That's fine. It's Dima's first time
just
doing
fun.
Dima, you're doing a great job hosting the stream, by the way.
Oh,
you are doing a fantastic job.
You've said this many words, but you're running a great show. No, Dima, I gotta say, I feel like you might have some questions. So I'll let you pick Matt's brain.
I mean, I'm just confused how like somebody as powerful as fucking Homeboy.
Who's Homeboy?
Fucking Christopher Lee's character.
Saruman.
Yeah, Saruman. I'm just really confused how he just dies like a bitch.
So
like that makes zero sense. This
to be clear, basically the entire fandom hates that. Like
hates that scene. Even Christopher Lee hates that. Yeah. Or hated RIP.
Yeah, RIP.
Yeah, so I'm sure that there is a reason why Peter Jackson decided to go the direction he did with Sauron's character, you know, and it might have been like a time thing or a budget thing.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it felt like a quick sweep under the rug. Let's move on.
Because it was. That's what it felt like. It felt
I
like,
want the
well,
ending you
let's
told
just
us
get this.
about.
Let's just get this old guy out of here. It's kind of like how we were with Joe at the mall, right? It's like, let's just get this old guy out of here, Like,
Yeah.
um,
But I want that ending you told us about, like with him and the
with
Urukai.
Saruman and Grima Wormtongue, with like a legion of Urukai in the Shire. Like, that's the
Yeah.
book ending, and like
I want that.
it's a
I
band
want
of
that.
hobbits that like band together and kill Saruman in the books.
In my what if of these movies, I'd want that, and then they see Frodo in the distance, but he's evil.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, there's Frodo," and he's like
I said, there was a film sequence that exists. I'm sure exists in some like freaking executive safe. It's probably on a VHS tape. It's probably locked in somebody's safe in some basement, getting water damage or something, of Frodo if he kept the ring.
Oh, yeah,
He's
I remember you talking about that.
he's like Gollumified,
Yeah.
that exists. There's like pictures of it on the internet, like you can see pictures of it, but like I know that there's a film sequence of it somewhere. Like I know that it was filmed. I just don't know. Like I said, it's probably just sitting on a VHS tape somewhere in somebody's basement, and somebody doesn't know what they have, and it'll get discovered when VHSs, like all the VHSs, have been destroyed in some freak post-apocalyptic universe. And I gotta say, I have never felt since we're on the subject, since I brought up VHS tapes, because I used to own the Lord of the Rings movies on VHS tape. That's the how I first saw them. Which, Dina, if you don't know what a VHS tape is, that's one of the pictures that you can see.
Oh my gosh!
Like, we didn't get that.
That's wild.
Yep.
Yeah. I share stuff.
What? Yeah. Watching the Lord of the Rings on VHS tape, right? And you get like the kind of like, because like if you watch VHS, Dina, if you don't know what a VHS tape is,
I grew up on VHS. I was like the last group of people that grew up on
it. But like watching, because you get like kind of that grainy film effect, like when you're watching VHS tapes on like a tube television, right?
It just adds to it, man.
It's just the aesthetic of that. I have never felt more at peace than watching the Lord of the Rings on VHS tape on an old school tube television, and I'll probably never feel that ever again.
Quick side story. So this guy right here, the Phantasm, it's actually a chick if you've watched the animated movie, but the Batman, the Mask of the Phantasm, is probably my favorite Batman movie ever. And it's counting live action anime. Like if you put them all together, I would pick that over any one of them. I think that movie's a masterpiece. Like
right on.
Perfect Batman movie. Well, my dad used to record things on HBO, like back when he had to rent things on HBO, and he would record movies for me. He had Godzilla, all the Batman movies, and then the animated movie. Well, I just found that VHS when my sister and I were cleaning out his garage. So I'm going to, because I have a VCR somewhere. I want to watch that VHS because I have a memory of like.
Dude, you got to watch it on like a projector.
Oh, dude, that'd be crazy.
That'd be so cool.
But what you just described is a whole thing for me. Like I've watched that movie in like super HD. You can stream it.
It's not the same.
It's not. There's something about the scratchiness of the film and
it's meant to be watched in that format.
I just miss it. I need that experience again.
So this, for any federal agency that is listening to this at the moment, I'm gonna need you to just turn us off for a second. I'll give a hand signal when you can come back on.
Take 15.
I do not condone theft. Let's just say that first. But there's this whole thing with digital media right now. So like you're like buying things digitally, right? So there's this whole issue with the PlayStation Store specifically and Sony, right? Where they came through and they're like, hey, we're going to be removing a bunch of titles from our PlayStation store, and this will also remove them from like your personal PlayStation library. And a lot of people are like, well, what the fuck? I bought that. Like,
Yeah.
like how does that give you any right to take that from me? And they're like, well, you didn't buy it to own it. You bought it to like lease it, essentially. Like you just purchased the right to have it in your PlayStation library, but we can still revoke that at any time. And if you
Such
look in the
bullshit.
fine print of like buying anything digitally, that's there, right? So there's this guy who all he does is he records everything on VHS tapes. So like he has, and like it's also one of the films that I believe that are like meant to watch on VHS, Studio Ghibli movies.
Oh yeah.
Like
100%.
those I feel like are perfect for VHS tapes. And he showed one specifically. It's Howl's Moving Castle, which I just got to go watch in theaters for the first time ever for like Ghibli Fest or whatever that was. Is pretty cool. But like it's Howl's Moving Castle on VHS, and it's just like it just looks with the little scratches in the film and whatnot. It just looks so good. Like they're meant to be watched like that. And he literally has like hundreds of movies that he's just recorded on his TV onto a VHS like screen recorder or whatever, however that works.
Yeah.
And he just records them on a VHS tape and, slaps a little piece of tape on there, writes Howl's Moving Castle, and like just catalogs them into a library. And I was like, he's like, just, if buying something digitally does not give me the right to own it, then pirating it is not theft.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that.
So, and he just has a library of hundreds of VHS tape movies of like stuff that's out now. Like I know he has like the Batman just on VHS tape.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And he's like, for when eventually, like he's like, let's just say society collapses one day, but we still have power, but we don't have access to the internet anymore. He's like, I can still watch all these movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a company
that's what I hate about it.
Do what?
That's what I hate about it is like they're forcing you to go digital though.
Yeah, that's
they're getting rid of the DVDs
right
the
now.
games.
It's a control thing.
Everything's
control. No, I was gonna say there's a company that does what Matt's guy that he's talking about. Because I saw somebody had a VHS they ordered for the Joker, and they made like the sleeve, like the VHS sleeve for the Joker, like it looked like if they had put it out in stores.
Oh wow.
It was really cool. Actually, let me see if I can find that really quick because it was really cool and it made me miss VHS tapes. Like there's just something about
there is
that sleeve that they go in that makes it feel like a whole different experience. I don't know what it is.
Well, not just that, but like the VHS logo, like when you saw that pop up, you just knew the movie was about to be goated, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
God, I missed that time period.
We'll see if I can find that. I can't find it right now.
Hey, my good old Padre just pulled up in my driveway, so I got to go deal with that. So I will, if you guys are still on, I'll jump back on.
Sounds good.
There it is.
Oh, that's dope as hell.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And they even like highlight scenes and everything like they do in the movie, so that's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
Did we? I think we're good on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, we can skip that.
All right, I was gonna say we got some time still. Yeah, we still got time. All right. So, for anyone who's watching or whatever, listening, whatever we do, we are seeing the sequel to Joker tomorrow.
Wow.
Joker Foil, dude. And
gonna be past my bedtime
when we get there. Fitting to talk a little bit about the first Joker while we're on here. Why not? So, I'm just gonna start off by saying, if I had to rate this movie out of 5 stones, I would want to give it 6.
Yes, I was gonna say 5, but yeah.
I think that movie is perfect.
Yes.
I have no nitpicks. And for those of you that are like, it's not following the comic
It's
books,
not
it
supposed
doesn't
to.
fucking have to. Get over it. It really doesn't have to. People are allowed to take characters that were made by somebody and then give their own interpretation, and that's what Todd Phillips said he was doing from jump. He
Yes.
never told us, "I'm giving you the classic DC
Yes.
Joker from the comics." He never said that. Never once said
I
that.
would like to see him make a classic Joker, though, selfishly.
I'm hoping he does more movies in the DCU for
Yes.
James Gunn
Yes.
or Matt Reeves.
Mm,
Like
yep.
I could
Yep.
see him doing a series or something for Matt Reeves Batman. Whatever he wants to do. I mean, he's a really good director. So
Him and Joaquin Phoenix are just naturals together, though. I mean, the fact that he was able to trust Phoenix to just do what he's got to do in that movie and fucking kill it every single time. Like every part that wasn't in the script that ended up in the movie was, as far as I'm aware, every time Phoenix just improved it. Like the
yeah,
refrigerator scene as being the most common one talked about. Like, dude just clears out the refrigerator and sits
punching
in
the
there.
clock out thing too,
Yeah, punching the clock out.
and
Like,
then making the joke about punching out.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, he's genius,
yes,
and he's so into the character. He's able to do these things that aren't
yes,
scripted,
yeah.
but because he's so like
He becomes
into it, it
Joker.
feels like it's something the character would
Yes,
actually do, and then they keep it in there. It's
yes.
yeah.
He became Arthur Fleck, at least in the time period of filming. Like when they'd say action to cut, like he became Arthur Fleck.
I want to say, talk about him and Matt Reeves. This came out 4 years before we got the Batman, 3 or
Mhm.
4 years. Um, when this movie came out, it was during the pandemic,
Yep.
and there was a lot of worry that it would incite violence in the movie
Mhm.
theaters and blah blah blah. So it had all this heat on it before it was even in theaters. People were scared to go see it, so a lot of people didn't go to the theaters to see it,
Yeah.
or so we thought. But it ended up being a
Looking at everybody was like,
billion-dollar movie and
yeah,
setting records. But I wanted to say, like, I think you'll agree. Like when we went and saw it, it was the first DC movie that I've ever seen that I actually felt like was capturing the tone and feel of DC Comics.
yes, yeah,
Like the first
absolutely.
one, it wasn't trying to appease a certain side of a fandom, or it wasn't trying to have a take on like, oh, I want to be grounded and blah 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 like Christopher Nolan. It just felt like a comic book movie.
It did.
It's like it almost has a texture. The film has like a texture to it. And Matt Reeves is doing the same thing with the Batman. Like even though they're in totally different universes, they're
Right.
in their own worlds. Both those movies have a feel, and to me, that is what I want my DC movies to feel and look
I
like.
agree.
I don't want them to look Marvel. I want them to look like their own thing.
Exactly.
So that being said, after seeing the Batman, a lot of people are like, "Oh man, this Joker and this Batman together would be crazy," and it's like that would be cool.
Eh,
But I just like the idea of Todd Phillips working with Matt Reeves.
yeah, yeah,
I think, they're saying this Joker movie is wrapping up the story they wanted to tell, and I think that's fine. I'm surprised there's even a sequel.
I am too.
But Todd Phillips doing more with DC would be cool. So whatever that is.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I'm very excited, and we'll. I feel like he's saying like that's the end of this Joker.
mhm.
Um, I feel like a lot of it's going to determine on like how things go with DC and with how much money they make and if they want to come back because there's been actors and directors who say like, yeah, I'm never doing playing that character again. Like what we did was the perfect ending. It was,
Yeah.
it doesn't need anything else, and then they find out what else they want to do with it, and it kills it then, and it might be 5 years down the road. So
Yeah, like I really doubt it's going to happen because I feel like they're going to have to really consolidate their budget to just
yeah,
being for DCU and the movies they've already
hmm
contractually agreed to do for like the Elseworlds. But if down the world they decide to do more like character studies of
yeah,
rogues gallery villains, I would love to see Todd Phillips do others. Like if he did one on Mr. Freeze or he did one on the Scarecrow or like those would be so good. Like
it
him
would,
doing his own take.
yeah,
I'm a fan of it. Like, I know I'm a fan of it just from the Joker because it's something different, but it also just feels so like real and like it is from the comics in a way, you know, like
Just dark and dirty.
I want to say though, so I have theories about what we're going to see tomorrow, and I haven't seen any spoilers. There are spoilers out there because a lot of people got a IMAX fan screening Monday of Joker.
Jealous.
Yeah, I had to make sure that Twitter knew not to talk about Joker. Right? You know how Twitter has like a thing where you can like put in keywords you don't want posts to pop up that are related to it or whatever.
Nope.
Oh, I do that for any big Marvel movies that are coming out, and
Love that.
I'll go in my settings and be like Spider-Man No Way Home, and then I don't see any posts about it until I've seen it in the theater.
Yeah,
It's
I
a good
just
way to
stay off of Twitter.
Well, I've done that because I saw somebody. I don't think it was Dave. I think it was somebody else that I follow on Twitter, but they were like, "Heads up, spoilers are hitting online about the ending of the movie," and apparently the ending of this movie is like a mind fuck. So I'm gonna give you my theory because I just watched Joker again recently. I've watched this movie several times. Besides the fact that this movie has musical elements to it, which you can kind of pick up on, because the first Joker, he does that dance in the bathroom after he kills the guys on the train.
Right.
And it's almost like he's transforming and he's got this music inside of him, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't hear it, but he hears it.
Yes.
And then when he kills Murray and everyone clears the studio, he goes up to the camera. Remember, that's life. You know, like that's from a song. He didn't hear it in the studio or anything, so it tells you like he's got music in his head.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that song is in the movie and whatever else. But not only are they establishing that, I think they're establishing that he is inspiring what would be the Joker that we are familiar with. And I kind of have this theory before of like, he's not the Joker.
Yeah.
He's going to inspire the Joker. But if you think about like, he does these things and he's not trying to start a movement. He's just trying to, you know, kind of get revenge in a sense at society.
Yeah.
And kind of backlash. And that mentality is what makes the uprising. Like people see this guy doing this thing and they can relate to it and whatever. And then you have these riots in the city and, Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne get killed by a guy wearing a clown mask, which is brilliant.
Yes.
Because it makes the Joker indirectly the killer of the Waynes.
Yeah, for his parents.
Yeah, so it's not like the Batman from '89 where, oh, it was Jack when he was young and a mobster and shot them in the alley. You know, like he killed the parents, but it was like a different way.
Yes.
And I thought that was really unique but clever. But it also shows like he's inspiring normal everyday people to do this crap.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got to wonder, okay, well, what about the people that aren't normal and that are more crazy than him?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, there has to be one person.
Which is where Lady Gaga comes into play, I feel like.
Well, the trailer shows him sitting down in the prison yard next to a young guy. I don't know if you remember the shot on top. They're like on bleachers, I think. You know, and they're like in the yard. And you know how every prison movie will have like the bleachers where they sit and talk, and then there's people playing basketball or whatever. He's sitting on bleachers next to a younger guy. And it's the only scene you see this dude in. But I'm just like, okay, if Arthur Fleck is in Arkham, and we know he's a Looney Tune, you'd have to assume he's amongst others like him. So I'm like, I wonder if that guy is influenced by him or is aware of him and is a fan of him and what he did. And, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if the ending of the next movie will give us the real Joker, I guess is what I'm getting at.
It might. I mean,
I guess
that's hard because
people are saying that there's like a mind-blowing ending. I'm like, does that mean like the real Joker is revealed, or because Arthur Fleck isn't like this psycho murderer. Would you agree with that? Like he's not just killing everybody.
No. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yes.
Okay, so it's not like the Joker we're used to, who doesn't have any regard for anyone's
Right.
life or values, or he's just
He
like
really
Heath
only kills
Ledger's
the people
Joker.
that like made fun of him and treated him like shit.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas like Heath Ledger's Joker is more true to like the comic book Joker.
Yes.
He even says it. He's like, I'm just like a dog looking at cars. Like I don't, if I caught one, I wouldn't have to do with it. Like
Right.
that's the Joker. He's just nuts. Like he sees things
Yes.
and he wants to play with them. He wants to burn piles of money. He wants to cause chaos for no reason at all other than to see it happen.
Yes.
That's the Joker, and Arthur Fleck is not that.
No.
But
No.
Todd Phillips made him more relatable to us, which is why I think that movie was such a hit, especially in a really down period of our lives.
Yes.
The pandemic. And that really separated like classes, like people who are stuck at home and have a nice house and everything, they don't really got to worry about much. But like Abby and I live in an apartment. We can only be in there for so long before we had to get out and do something. Well, if you get out and do something, you're risking getting sick.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and that's why we had real riots in our lives. We had people destroying home-owned businesses downtown and burning things, and just craziness. And then you have the movie coming out in this time period where that same thing's happening.
Yeah.
And you got a character that you can relate with. I don't know. It's just the movie came out at a great time, even though we thought it was a terrible time for it.
Hindsight.
And brought us something we were not prepared for.
No, not at all.
So
I feel like we're going to be saying the same thing after tomorrow because, I mean, like, because no matter how much we think we're, like, ready for this new one, I just feel like we're not. And I feel like no matter what we're going to say we think is going to happen, it's not going to happen. And,
did you notice the runtime on it?
What, 3 hours?
It's like 2.5, 2:40. Yeah, it's pushing that. It's up there.
It's 2:19.
Okay, yeah, so almost 2.5. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, it seems pretty short for movies nowadays. I feel like a lot of movies are going towards closer to 3.
Yeah, well, I thought it was gonna be shorter than that, if I'm being honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Todd Phillips was in this interview and it made me really nervous. He said in the early writings of this movie, him and Joaquin Phoenix were kind of toying around the idea of making this a Broadway show and touring around the country performing the story.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, that ain't going to be 2 hours long.
No.
So I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, they took an iteration of that and made it this movie.
Yeah.
Which in a sense is what he said they did. I'm like, that probably won't be too. So when I saw it was almost 2.5 hours, I was happy because I was wanting it to be shorter than that. But then I've also been nervous about this whole musical aspect because I'm not a musical guy. Like, there are definitely movies that I really like Sweeney Todd. I've always been a fan of.
Yeah.
I grew up on like Mary Poppins and stuff like that. So, but in general, I don't get excited about musicals.
Yeah,
it's not my cup of tea. And especially for something like the Joker, I'm just kind of like,
Yeah, I was worried about that when we first started talking about it, but I mean, I got to the point where I'm like, I feel like it's not going to be a musical. Like, I feel like we're blowing that a little out of proportion, and it's not going to be what we're thinking it's going to be.
Yeah, and people have been like giving flack to Todd Phillips for like being scared to admit it's a musical, and they haven't seen the movie yet. They just think it's a musical and like they know better than him.
Right.
But the people that have seen the movie have said like it's not a musical. It just has musical elements. Like there's a lot of musical segments, but they play into the story well, and it's not like you just sit there and get a whole rendition of a song. It's
right.
So yeah, a lot of people have been saying they don't feel like it is a musical. Like I've read a lot of spoiler-free reviews
Okay.
And most people, it seems like the general consensus is it is not a musical. It has the same tone. I've seen some people say it's darker than the first movie, which I'm like,
Damn.
okay,
I'm
okay,
here for it.
yeah, but yeah. So I'm not really too worried about that anymore.
Yeah.
Plus, I tried to listen. I'm not. It's not again not my cup of tea, but I tried to listen to that soundtrack or album
Mhm.
that Lady Gaga recorded for this movie, and I think some of the songs are featured in the movie. I would assume
Okay.
because one of them is literally titled "The Joker," and the other one is titled "Fully I'll Do." So I'm like,
Mhm.
it's probably in the
Definitely
movie
in
at some
there.
point. And I like the style of music because I feel like it kind of would fit this character that the Joker has been trying to become.
Yeah.
You know, dressing in the suit, kind of dancing, and
Right. A showman.
yeah, exactly. It reminds me of when he came out on Mare.
Yeah.
And he's spinning and like, if you give me that and then he's killing people, like,
Yes.
cool. Like that's the Joker I want to see. I don't want to see musical numbers and just romance with
Like
him
in
and
High
Harley
School
Quinn. Like I want to
Musical.
see chaos.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited for it. I feel more confident in it than I did in the early press releases for
Right.
this film. You know, I was kind of nervous, but yeah, I'm really excited.
I am too.
Um,
It should be good.
yeah.
So,
Is
yeah.
there anything in the first movie that you're hoping we'll get more like clarity on in the second one, or
No. I mean,
I
I don't
have
feel like I need clarity though from anything in the first. Like I felt like everything was very
even
well
knowing this
explained.
is the last movie.
Yeah, like I don't think I need clarity on anything.
Okay, I want clarity on one thing, and probably won't get it. And if I don't, that's fine, because I feel like Todd Phillips definitely wants to leave things to interpretation, which I'm a fan of. Married to Crow is a shining example of that.
Yeah.
I would like to know what really happened and what didn't happen in the first movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like,
Yeah.
if there's a scene, because we know the movie starts off with him in Arkham, obviously, it has
Right.
to if it's following the events of the last movie.
Yeah.
You know, he killed that therapist, and then he's running from the workers.
Right.
So, like, if it starts off with him in Arkham and he's getting like this analysis done, and then we hear people talking in the hallway, like, this guy's a fucking nut job. He thinks he killed a bunch of people, and he thinks he killed this Mare guy. He doesn't even exist. You know, if we get something
Yeah.
like that, I'd be okay with that because that
Yeah.
would tell me he's more nuts than I thought in the first movie.
Yes.
And it would also
I
tell me
agree.
that most of the movie didn't happen, which would be like a.
Yes.
So I'd be okay with that.
No,
I'd
I
be
agree with
completely
that.
okay with that.
It's been a minute since I've seen it. I completely forgot about like that what was real and what wasn't thought
Well, you know what
process I
would
was
be,
dealing with.
you know what would be brilliant about that, which I guess you could say you're already going to kind of do that seeing the sequel, but like it would really establish that I need to have my guard up with trusting anything that I see after that in this
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
You know, like because I know the movie's premise is that he's going to court for what he did
Right.
to get his sentencing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, so is it going to be the court case is about him killing Murray on live TV and killing his mom in the hospital and
Yeah.
killing the dude that came to his apartment, or is it going to be for killing people in Arkham?
Shit. Yeah, he was straight
Like he
serial
got put
killer.
in Arkham for being a loony, but he's never killed anybody until he got put in Arkham.
Right.
And then over time, he developed this world in his head,
Where
and
he
he
did
thinks
kill
he's killed
everybody.
people. So he's like, I'm going to kill more people. And then he actually killed people in Arkham.
Right.
You know, that's
Yeah.
what I want. I want to know like what he's done and what he hasn't done. And I probably won't get that, but it would be cool.
Fuck. Yeah. No. I agree.
Because there's a lot of things in the first movie that throw you off. Like the social worker he goes and sees
Yes.
is a very similar looking person to the therapist he's speaking to in Arkham at the end of the movie.
Yes.
You know, kind of older African American woman smoking a cigarette or whatever. And speaking in a very like calm voice. And in both scenarios, he's on the other end of a desk or table smoking a cigarette and not taking it seriously. So it's like eerily similar.
Yeah, I remember the theories out there where they were saying that anytime he was talking to the therapist, it wasn't real because the clock wasn't moving.
Yes.
And so, yeah, fuck, I forgot all about that.
And here's another thing. Let's pretend the first movie really did happen. Like everything we're shown is really happening, and Todd Phillips just wants to play mind games.
Right.
In the first scene with him talking to a social worker, she says something along the lines of, how have you been since they let you out of the mental hospital or something like that?
Yeah.
Or so basically, like, we know he was in there prior to us seeing this movie.
Right.
But we don't know for what.
Yeah.
Right. And in that instance, they cut to a scene of him slamming his head in the padded room on the door.
Yeah.
So it's like, was that an instance of like, how are things in the hospital and it shows us, or was it just all in his head? Like, I don't know.
What's reality, what's not?
Because maybe in this court hearing, we'll also find out why he was in there the first time, and then all the things that happened did happen. That's why he got put back in.
Right.
So that would be cool to get an answer on too, because I've always wondered, like, why was he in there in the first place? Like, what did he do before where they were like, we need to put you in this padded room?
Right.
Kind of monitored you for a while. So yeah,
I'm very excited to see what's going on with everything. Like with the second movie, see how they go about it and what they give us a heads up on or not.
Yeah, absolutely. But all right, well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap this up. This has been a crazy stream.
Yes, it has. Started off with Lord of the Rings, ended with the Joker, which we'll be seeing tomorrow. You'll get my thoughts on it immediately after the movie. No spoilers.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, we'll when we get out of the theater, remember how I did like a selfie video of all of us for our first reaction? I'll do the same thing, and I think it'd be cool to like get our thoughts immediately after seeing the movie.
Agreed.
And we'll just post it on our channel for anyone to watch.
Yep.
Because we're fortunate in the fact that we're seeing the first screening of it on the early release night. Because technically the release is Friday.
Right.
So we got in that little 4-hour window of we're going to show this movie early, and we got the first one.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So hopefully it won't be packed. It probably will be.
Well, we're in the big theater. I don't know if you saw the seating, but
no,
because I know I got the tickets. You guys probably didn't see the map, but it's the big theater in Liberty with like the nice cushiony chairs and shit. Yeah. So it's gonna be cool. And if it's packed, it's gonna be a lot of people.
Yeah, it probably will be. I mean, I'll be very surprised if it's not.
Yeah, well.
So
either way, it's gonna be cool.
But yeah, so y'all see that tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, listening to our expert of Lord of the Rings, Lord Matthew Jones.
Yeah, sorry he had to dip out early and that we don't have that much to say about it other than the questions I asked. I don't know.
But
I feel like there was a lot of things we didn't get to talk about during, but I just can't remember everything already. The movies are so huge, and
they're way too big to be remembering everything.
And I can ask Matt one question, and that can dive into this whole subject of things, and
which has 20 more questions.
Which isn't on him. That's just that's why I think this is the best story in this genre that's been in film. Mm-hmm. Because not everything's in the movies, but if you do your research, you can pretty much learn everything. Like everything's thought out, everything's written down somewhere. It's really cool.
Yep. Yeah.
So, anyways, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be looking out for our first review of Joker Fully I Do. We'll post that tomorrow. And then Saturday, we'll have our normal stream where I talk about a bunch of shit that I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. I'll probably talk about Joker more, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I'll be doing my half-price fines. So, there's that.
And then Saturday.
Yep.
At 8 o'clock, tune in. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's
that's
at
right. We're
8.
doing a little live watch of a movie called Married to Crow.
Yeah. So we'll see you all tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. Busy weekend for all of us.
Yeah,
Wow.
Saturday, Married to Crow will be on our YouTube page at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So people will have the opportunity to watch it earlier in the day if they want to jump on and ask us questions later. We're going to start our stream around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna get a little spoilery in our discussions, and even if no one jumps on and asks us questions, we're still just gonna talk about our favorite parts of the movie and maybe what went into certain
Little
scenes, and
BTS.
kind of give some people how the sausage is made.
Yeah. Yep.
So that'd be cool.
All right. Well, till next time.
Yep. We'll see you guys later.
Oh,